There's no way. I knew it. Hello, fellow Wastelanders. If you're anything of a Fallout fan like me, you've probably been enjoying the gosh darn heck out of the Fallout show on Prime. So much so that I might have to make my own Jell-O cake. So to give you a bit of my own backstory, I was first introduced to Fallout through Fallout 3. It was a great game, and there was really something about wandering the empty nuclear wasteland with that old-timey music playing through my Pip-Boy. And after that I played Fallout 4, another great game, and of course, if you can get past the features that aren't bugs, I felt it was just another great entry into the series and I enjoyed it. Well, in 2024 we've got the very first Fallout TV show. And man, I really wasn't sure what to think about it at first, but after the first 2 episodes I was absolutely hooked. And as I got into the show more and more, I couldn't help but notice. Lucy didn't have any paracord, or even rope for that matter, in her awesome backpack. So that got me thinking, just how useful would paracord be in the nuclear wasteland? Might seem like a simple question, but let's think about that. The bombs have dropped, society has fallen, and rule of law is non-existent. How useful is some rope just going to be?
And here I am again, I'll tie myself up with fucking rope. What's the deal with you and the fucking rope, honestly? It happened to be a very useful thing, so shut it!
Well, I think in just about any survival situation, having basic working knowledge of how to tie knots and use rope would be, of course, indispensable. Now, I'm imagining what it would be like having to survive in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, and it would make sense that all basic survival skills need apply. In a world where infrastructure is non-existent, paracord can be used for any number of purposes. And here are 7 reasons why. Number 1, construction and repair. When venturing through the wasteland, your equipment could break or fail. Paracord could be useful to repair things such as a broken bootlace, for example. You could take out the inner guts of the 550 paracord to stitch and sew up ripped or torn fabric, and perhaps the material on a backpack. You could even use it to sew up a wound if you had nothing else. Number 2, trap making. Now, paracord can be utilized to set up traps for catching food or deterring enemies. Knot tying skills would be necessary for crafting intricate snares, tripwires, and net traps. Need a quick meal? Set up a snare or deadfall to catch a mole rat for that sweet mole rat meat. Pesky raiders bothering you? Same thing, just make a bigger human-sized version of those traps. Number 3, equipment crafting. Crafting is an essential skill needed in the Fallout universe, and you could of course use paracord to craft yourself tools and weapons needed to hunt and defend yourself. Haven't gotten to the level to craft a pipe rifle yet? Well, some paracord and a sharpened piece of scrap metal could very easily be crafted into a spear. And don't forget, if you can find a cue ball and you've got some paracord, you can make that devastating monkey's fist impact tool. Feral ghouls would stand no chance. Number 4, climbing and rappelling. Now this is going to be a bit more dependent on where you live and the landscape you're dealing with, but climbing and rappelling could very well come into play when traversing a destroyed radioactive city. Now, that being said, paracord is not rated for climbing. However, if you did have rope that was rated for climbing, knot tying skills are 100% necessary. So knowing some basic knots for climbing would be very beneficial. With all this list talk though, I did want to mention very quickly about the actual show again. No spoilers, of course, but if you are a fan of the Fallout video game series and you somehow haven't yet watched the show, what are you waiting for? If you're not a fan, what are you waiting for? But seriously, the premise of the show does stay very true to the themes and story told in the game, and even if you're not a fan of Fallout, I think anyone can enjoy the Fallout show. If you're into the whole post-apocalyptic end of the world, sort of derelict aesthetic, you're gonna love this show.
Let me show you. Derelict!
It's just the right amount of adventure, humor, blood, and guts. And for the fans, there are just enough references to the games to keep us happy. But they definitely held back some stuff for future seasons, and I of course want more. Anyhow, getting back to it. Now, where was I? Right. Number 5, medical applications. Got a crippled limb, torso, or head? No worries, paracord can actually be used for emergency medical purposes. Along with some sticks or scrap wood, you could use it to make a makeshift splint or to secure emergency bandages. Also, though a bit controversial, you can use Paracord for an emergency tourniquet. Now, before you go running into the comments section saying that you should never use Paracord as a tourniquet, this is mainly for an emergency situation and if you had nothing else. Yes, Paracord is not ideal for this as it's narrow, but perhaps if you rolled up some fabric around the limb or wrapped the cord around several times to disperse the pressure, it could be viable. And honestly, if you were bleeding out and had nothing else and only Paracord, I'm quite sure you would use whatever you had and not just sit there and let yourself bleed out because you didn't have an ideal tourniquet. And if you disagree, check this video out by First Class Amateur. He knows more than you and I. Number 6, fire starting. Those nights can be cold, especially if there's a nuclear winter going on. So of course you'll need some fire to keep you warm at night. Having some Paracord handy can allow you to make a fire bow for fire starting purposes. And even if you have matches or a lighter, it's great to have alternative methods for fire starting to prolong your available resources. Also, Paracord itself, especially polyester, takes a great flame and can be used as tinder to get that fire going. Now just be wary that fires at night can attract raiders. And last but not least, number 7, camouflage and concealment. Need to hide that T60 power armor because you ran out of fusion cores? Not a problem because you can easily make some netting with Paracord to cover up your power armor. And of course, depending on the color, you can use that same netting to blend into the environment should you need to. As for our Fallout themed bracelet that I've been making this whole time, this would definitely be great to match your Vault Dweller uniform. And this buckle is also a ferro rod fire starter. However, if I were going for practicality, I'd much prefer to go with a blaze bar or other quick unravel pattern for survival purposes. Stay safe out there, Wastelanders.